Morning.
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 Oh, I can't really hear you, Bill.
We can barely hear you. The volume.
How about now?
Great commercial.
Okay. I think Ebony and Heather are going to change the world in that room today.
You are.
Love it. All right. Who wants to share some good news? Tell me what you did on the long weekend.
I had an open house.
All right. How'd it go?
3 people came through. One of them I'd seen at 2 other open houses that I've hosted, and so I'm starting to wonder if they just really like open houses.
That's hilarious. Were you like, hey, I've seen you before. Why don't you just hire a real estate agent?
Well, they walked in. I'm like, you look familiar. And they're like, yeah, we saw your tub of drinks outside and thought like that looked familiar too.
And so they just like going to open houses, huh?
Well, they said that they're looking in different areas and like looking at different things. And so I said, well, are you finding anything you like as you search? And, you know, I have them in my email. I contact them. They never reply.
Yeah. They're what's the word?
Sunday drivers?
Yeah, that too. They're what's the word? It's voyeurism, right? We talk about this. They just want to look and be anonymous and pop in and ask a question and pop right out. They don't want any accountability, right? They don't want anyone bothering them. So you almost have to approach them in a different way. You're like, could I give you an app that maybe you could search on your own whenever you'd like, right? Or maybe you have some financing questions. I can introduce you to a lender. Cool. So 3 couples is not bad.
Yep.
And anyone need a filter?
Well, one of them came through and she didn't bring her husband because the husband didn't think they would like it because she didn't think it had a yard, but it had the courtyard, and she was really pleasantly surprised. And so I told her, I'll let the listing agent know that because they walk there all the time, they live across the street, they're renting at the moment. They had bought in January, and eminent domain forced them out of their new house and they had to rent. Wow. Like within weeks.
For what? In Brookhaven?
Yeah. Apparently they were building a big complex or something, and so they got eminent domain, I think it was 3 weeks after they closed. Like they just moved in. So she's—
Did they make money?
What's that?
Did they make money?
She seemed to have made money, but she feels, I can tell she feels a little resentful. And she's trying to work past the resentment, and they're trying to decide if they want to rent or buy another house or what they want to do. So we just talked for a long time. She was there for an hour.
Oh my God.
She had arrived at 5 minutes after 4 o'clock. So the open house ended at 4. So I just stayed an extra hour. But she put on her sheet that she has 2 real estate agents. She's like, yeah, I used one for this and I used one for that. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe she wants a 3rd.
Yeah. Oh boy. What do they say, Kathy? I'm probably going to butcher the delivery, but you're supposed to be the first son, the second realtor, or the second husband and the 3rd realtor, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does everyone know what an eminent domain is? Does anyone not know what eminent domain is? All right, moving on. Who's got some more good news? Who else picked up a client this weekend or had some cool experience this weekend they want to share? Anyone having any struggles right now that they want to share?
Yeah, I was, I don't know. I had a guy call me last weekend over a sign I had in the yard, and he seemed to be looking for houses. And so I talked to him on the phone for about maybe 10 or 15 minutes, trying to figure out, everything that he wanted and stuff like that. And so I found a bunch of stuff and I sent it to the email he gave me, but I think he gave me a fake email and he hasn't replied back to me. So I'm like, oh man.
He hasn't replied by text or by phone, you mean?
Yeah, by text or phone.
Yeah. Well, he wouldn't be the first person to ever give a fake email. Sometimes that's going to happen. I would just keep at him over the phone and over text, and maybe he'll reply. And the most important thing for that is don't take it personally.
Okay. And then
don't take it personally.
I know, it just happens, I guess. Well, the other thing I wanted to ask about was I just kind of wanted a refresher today because yesterday I saw a couple of for sale by owners, and I was wanting to think, if I give them a call, what should I say? I don't want to forget something. I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but
Yeah. Okay, let's put that on hold for 1 second, and we'll come right back to that. Anyone else want to share? Any other questions? All right, let's do a little bit of calendaring for 2 seconds. Andrew, I'm not completely ignoring that. We're going to come right back to it, okay? Okay, so today I am leading a class from 1 to 3 through the Market Center. So it's not going to be on this link. It'll be on the link that I posted in the WhatsApp group yesterday. It's also the same link that was posted, or that I think Melody or Lucy sent out as the daily email last week. So roughly the first hour is going to be talking about the GPS, and the second hour roughly is going to be talking about the 411. So please do your best to attend that. I know many of you either you're at some various stage of building those 2 documents, and I just can't tell you how much those documents help. I will admit I did use a GPS. I've used a GPS for many years, but I have not used I never used a 411 until I was the team leader. And the second I started, everything started shifting in my mind about clarity on what was most important to do every single day. So I got mine right here. I will send out my updated one tomorrow when I send out the weekly email for reporting. And hopefully by the end of the session, you guys will have draft number 1 or draft number 3, and whatever you have, send it to me. I'll give it some feedback. Like Ebony and I are working on a draft of hers right now, where she's sending me what kind of where she's at the moment, and I'm like, hey, add this, take this away, change this, think about this, that kind of thing. So as we fine tune it, it'll become a better and better and more useful tool to you. Okay. Tuesday at 4 is the growth mastermind. Friday at 1 is the launch mastermind, and Susan Corley is going to be our success series speaker on Friday from 12 to 1. She's going to spend some time talking about texting through command and smart plans, and then she's going to spend some time just kind of introducing herself. As you all know, she's former assistant team leader. She runs a team, or she is a team at the office, I should say, or she is an agent at the office, and also, of course, the agent mentor, or one of the agent mentors. Okay, and then our big group session is Thursday from 3 to 4. Okay, let's talk about one thing that I want to just spend a couple of moments on, and then we'll probably wrap up with the for sale by owner discussion, is this discussion about preparing for today and for the GPS. Okay, I'm a member of what's called the One Thing community. The One Thing, if you guys are not listening to a podcast, it's called the One Thing podcast. It's hosted by a gentleman named Jeff Woods, who runs the One Thing kind of enterprise, if you will. It is really, really good, the One Thing. Okay, obviously it's patterned after the book. I'm gonna just come into the room real fast through a different computer, and I want to share this screen with you really fast. You guys have seen the 7 circles, right? So I'm taking a class. It's actually like it's a goal setting class, but it's kind of geared towards couples. But that ain't working, is it? Sorry. Okay. Let me see how I'm gonna show this to you. Can y'all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the 7 circles for living a balanced life. Spiritual life, physical health, personal life, key relationships, job, business, finance. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything will be easier or unnecessary? Okay. Now, one of the things that, first of all, that there's several copies of that in the Google Drive. So if you want to print out a page and look at it or study it or take some notes on it, you obviously can. One thing that I did yesterday for a little while was I took each of those circles, and what I'm going to kind of explain this a little bit during the GPS class today, but you don't just start with like your 1-year plan and like kind of randomly throw up some numbers and say, okay, that's what I want to do in 1 year. Honestly, what you really do is you start to do something called thinking about your someday goals, right? Someday I'd like to have a mountain house. Someday I'd like to own a boat. Someday I'd like to, write a check for somebody to go to a, private school for a year for free or something, right? Someday I have this thing that's on my heart that I want to achieve, right? And then, so you can, what I'm going to encourage you to do, maybe even before the class today, if you're able, is to say, what are my someday goals for my finance? What are my someday goals for my physical health? Okay, so in someday I'd like to have a 6-pack. Now, it probably ain't happening today, and more than likely it's not happening this week. But if I do something this week or this month or this quarter to get me in that direction, then I got a better shot at getting it done, right? So what are some of your someday goals in these particular arenas? Then what we would say is, what are our 5-year goals? What do we think we can accomplish in 5 years, right? So if the down payment for that mountain house is going to be 50 grand, then do you think I could save 30 grand in the next 5 years, right? 20 grand in the next 5 years? Okay, what's my 1-year plan? Okay, my 1-year plan is to have one commission check go entirely to that, something like that, right? So you work backward from the someday goals to the 5-year goals to the 1-year goal, and that's ultimately what we put on our GPS. So the 1-year goal for our spiritual life should appear on our GPS, or I'm sorry, on our 411. The 1-year goal for my business, the 1-year goal for my key relationships, that stuff should appear on the 411, okay? Now, any questions on that?
Bill, just a quick question. You said the 1-year goals plan should be on your GPS, but the other one should be on your 411?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that. So the GPS is really a 1-page business plan for a particular goal. So theoretically, let's say, for example, you wanted to, let's say you wanted to lose weight, okay? And that was your goal for your physical health. Let's say you wanted to, obviously not you, somebody wants to lose 50 pounds, okay? That would be, you could create a GPS around that. The one goal would be losing 50 pounds. Then we'd go in and we'd talk about the 3 strategies that we're gonna execute on, or I'm sorry, the 3 priorities that we're gonna execute on in order to lose that weight. It might be exercise, diet, mindset, something like that. Okay, well, with exercise, what are the 5 strategies we're going to execute on? With diet, what are the 5 strategies we're going to execute on, right? So a GPS is really just a 1-page business plan that is centered around a goal that you might have that has a definitive time frame on it. A GPS is basically taking the 1-year goals that you have determined are in your world, putting the annual goals here, the monthly goals here. So if I want to do, let's say 25 closings, well, that's 2 a month or something, right? And then the weekly goals. What do I need to do on a weekly basis in order to be on track to have my monthly goals achieved? And what do I have to do monthly in order to be on track to have my annual goals achieved? So it's quite cumbersome, but really for every goal that you have, you could create a GPS. And then the actual activities that you're going to hold yourself accountable to could and should appear on your 411. Does that make any sense? So you could have multiple GPSs. Like I have a GPS for the PC program. I'm part of obviously a GPS for the market center. I have a GPS for my sales team. I have a GPS for profit share. So I've got and my assistant has a GPS, right? So these are all big kind of goals and projects that we're focused on that we need to be taking certain action on every single day. Does that make you more confused or less confused? Are you okay?
What's the acronym
Sorta.
for?
Okay, one at a time. Sorry, what?
What does the acronym stand for, the GPS?
Oh, GPS is goals, priorities, strategies.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep. So it's really this. Okay, it's this. One goal, right here. 3 priorities.
We can't
And
see it
each
all.
priority, you can't see that?
Not all of it.
Is that any better?
That's better.
Okay. 1 goal, 3 priorities, and 5 strategies for each of the priorities. Okay. And we're going to go into this a little bit later, but this is what I call the high level GPS. So the person's goal is to close 122 units. They're going to close 73 listing transactions, 49 buyer transactions, and they're going to execute on amazing customer care. And then below, they have what those actual strategies are going to be in order to get those 3 things done. Okay. We'll talk about this. Talk about this.
You're upside down.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure out why. All right, there we go. Keeping all y'all on paying attention. Okay, Luanda. So does that make sense on the GPS?
Yes, somewhat.
Okay, today's class will go into a ton of detail on it.
Okay.
So if you can, tune into the class today.
Absolutely.
And there's also some additional videos on the Google Drive about GPSs and 411s, okay? All right, let's talk about FSBOs for a second. So number one, we have a set of FSBO scripts, for sale by owner scripts in the Google Drive, right? So that gives you a ton of, I'm just gonna pull those up really fast. It's called FSBO favorites, okay? It's about 8 pages of scripts that you can, of what to say when you're calling for sale by owners, okay? When your home sells, where are you gonna move to? You know, frankly, the reason I'm calling is every day I proactively look for buyers for my sellers. Isn't that what you would want your agent to do for you? I mean, if you hired an agent, right? Some of these are a little bit, a bit kind of in your face, which is sometimes what they need. My biggest comment about for sale by owners is you need to make sure you're staying in integrity. Okay, don't tell them you have a buyer if you don't have a buyer. Okay, don't go over there for quote a preview and then pretend like it's a listing appointment and get pissed off if they don't list with you. Okay, the main things that you can figure out about a FSBO, number one is what is their motivation? Why are they trying to sell their home? Okay, and the other main thing that you can do, that you should be doing with a FSBO, is creating doubt. Okay, creating doubt. So, and kind of reminding them that they're being unsuccessful. So for example, when you are in the process of courting a FSBO, you might call them Monday morning and say, hey, did you sell the house? And they say no. Say, great, how many offers did you get?
Trying to figure out where to drop you, buddy.
And then they say, well, I didn't get any offers. So how many showings did you have? Well, I had 2 showings. Well, how many of those are real estate agents? Well, both of them. Okay, so no prospects came to look at your house this week. Is that correct? Okay, is there anything that I can do to help you this week? No. Okay, call you Monday. Right? And every Monday you call and you ask the same exact questions. Did you sell the house? Not a bunch of chit chat. This is, you're there for a reason. Did you sell the house? Yes or no? Right? When they say, yeah, I showed it to like two new buyers this week. Great. Did they buy it? Right? How come? You're basically reminding them that this is just an overwhelming challenge for them. Okay. And you can kind of decide how you want to address what I'm about to say, but there's also a lot of safety issues with being a FSBO, right? You're letting a bunch of strangers in your home. You've not pre-qualified them personally. There's no middleman, right? There's just you got to do all the showings yourself, right? Which is really a disadvantage. I would never have my seller at the home as the buyer was going through. I don't want them talking to each other. Make sense? So that, every time that there's a showing request, they got to cancel or stop what they're doing in their own personal life to go be a realtor for the next hour, right? And oftentimes the money that they're trying to save is the same money that the buyer is trying to save, right? So why in the world would a buyer approach a FSBO, right? To save the money. So who else would be a good candidate? An investor. Is an investor going to pay full price for the home or market value for the home? No, not at all. Okay. And then most buyers, because the commission is the commission is paid for by the seller, they have full incentive to work with the buyer, buyer's agent. And when you pull the comps, or when you pull active listings for your buyers, you're not like driving around all of those streets to see if there might be a FSBO listed. You're sending them the stuff that's listed. Make sense? So they now automatically they have a lower amount of eyes on the property. Supply and demand would say, and as a result, they have fewer showings and smaller likelihood of selling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
So here's a good example. Let's say, for example, you go into an upscale watch store, okay, and you buy a really nice watch. Let's say you spend, what's a really nice watch cost? $1,000? I know watches can cost a lot more than that. Let's say it's $1,000. Really nice watch. My watch costs like $15. So you get a really nice watch and it comes in like this really, beautiful packaging, right? And it's got all the warranty cards and all that kind of stuff on it. And it's just beautiful, $1,000. So you walk out of the store, right? Now you're willing to pay $1,000 for that watch because it's in like a setting that appears to be, legitimate and professional, and there's a salesperson involved, and like it's got a brand name and all that, right? So then I take that home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really need that $1,000. I think I'm gonna have to sell this watch. And then you sell it in a garage sale and it's still got its packaging and it's never been worn. Are you gonna get $1,000 for that? Not a chance, right? That's essentially what the FSBO is trying to do. They're trying to be the professional when they're not the professional. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they can't sell their home. Doesn't mean that at all. It just simply means that they're not going to get as much as they could for the home.
True.
And by the way, they're going to get killed in negotiations with the other agent. Right? They're essentially, I'll come back to that. They're going to get, you're basically agreeing to pay a buyer's agent to negotiate with you or against you professionally. That doesn't sound like a great idea to me. Right?
Right.
You just got to draw out the pain there. Did you sell the house? No. Did you sell the house? No. Did you sell the house? No. Okay. Got it? Heather, what do you mean?
Here, you can explain.
Okay, so let's just say that they think like you have for sale by owner, and they have their stuff on Zillow and platforms like that, and they think that that exposure is enough to get them their sale. How do you overcome that with them, letting them know like
All right, Julian, you want to read
that's
this one?
not gonna work or that's not gonna produce
This
what
one?
it is you want?
This one? Okay.
It's a really good question. And I'm going to answer in a very broad way that is going to apply to a lot of different scenarios. Okay.
All right,
Don't
so you've
tell
got
him what's going to ask him.
snacks.
Don't tell
Listen,
him
you've got 2 drinks
what
in here
is
plus
likely
this
to
Gatorade,
happen.
okay?
Somebody that's not on mute.
Yeah, I'm going to take care of that. She did it. Okay. Don't tell them what you think is going to happen. Ask them what they're experiencing.
Okay.
Right? So if the property is still available, their plan isn't working.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you might say, Zillow says like how many days it's been on Zillow or whatever. If this property's been on Zillow for like 74 days or something, that's a lot of days, right? That's a lot of like dinners where the husband and the wife are sitting across the table from each other saying, damn, house hasn't sold yet. What are we going to do? Well, let's make the beds all tomorrow, clean the kitchen. Maybe tomorrow's our lucky day. Next dinner, hadn't sold yet. What should we do? You know what I'm saying? Having a home on the market unsuccessfully is stressful as hell, right? Now, keep in mind, that's the type of person you're dealing with when you're working with sellers. And by the way, that's also the kind of person you're working with when you got a buyer that's being asked for all their financial documents and they're trying to get their pay stubs to you and they're organizing their taxes, right? People that are buyers and sellers, there's a lot of stress around being a buyer and seller right now, really at all times. So remember, you're the calming force in the transaction. Now, specifically to your comment, Ebony, the question is not, why are you being so stupid and being on Zillow and trying to sell the home yourself? Right? Although that's kind of what you want to say to them. What you need to do is you need to ask them the questions that says, tell me a little bit about where you're planning to move. Come from curiosity. And what would that mean for your family? Why is that important to you? And when do you need to get there by? Right? And tell me a little bit about your experience with working, with trying to sell this home yourself. Have you got any contracts? Have you got any offers? Have you been showing the home a lot? Like, are you having a good experience? Right? And eventually they're going to say, no, actually, I hate it. And I haven't been successful yet. And I thought Zillow was the key to all my problems, but I guess it's not. Say, well, hi, my name is Ebony. Would you prefer to sign in blue ink or black ink?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So don't tell them what you want to tell them. You're basically a coach. You need to ask the questions that are going to encourage them to open up to you and explain to you where they're hurting, right? And where their frustration is, right? And we're like the doctor. Okay, your arm hurts, here, do this. Your leg hurts, here, do that. Your head hurts, here, let me do this for you. See what I'm saying?
So Bill, I have a question.
Yeah.
With all of that being said, last time we spoke, one of the girls was offering to do photos for and advertising for the for sale by owner. Where would you put that piece in here?
Well, I think that number one, I think that's only appropriate if you've come in with the right from the right angle, right? So for example, again, don't come in there and say you have a buyer if you don't have a buyer, right? And if you say, hey, I'm just previewing homes because I like to know all the homes that are listed and all the homes that are not listed, right? That's cool. If they let you in, that's cool. And then casually, you might offer what you just said. Hey, I'd be happy to host an open house for you. Hey, I've got a photographer who I wouldn't mind paying for pictures or having them come over and take pictures. Are you asking me when that's appropriate, or what are you asking specifically?
Both. You know, we're in the process to put that in, you know, to help you get a listing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you offer that when you have asked enough questions to confirm that this person has a legitimate goal and a legitimate motivation. I would say an additional threshold should be that they're actually polite, right? There's a lot of people and sellers out there that you know are kind of nasty. I don't know if I'd go out of my way to service one of those people, right? I kind of want to be a teammate, right? I want it to be pleasant for everyone involved. And then I would just come out and say it, right? Hey, I'd like to take some pictures for you. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to take the pictures and see if I can't help you with some marketing. See if I can't drive some traffic to your listing, right? Which is another way of saying, I'd like to use your home as bait to attract buyers who may or may not care one bit about your property. And that's fine because you're doing something for somebody with the appropriate, you know, you're not lying, you're not trying to take advantage of anybody. You're simply trying to help, and that's what a win-win is all about. You'll help him get some advertising, and he'll help you use the property to get some calls, right? And then you confirm that if by chance you found a buyer and they did want to buy that home, that you would be compensated. And by the way, they're probably telling you don't have a relationship with a real estate agent, so you probably are in the front seat or in the driver's seat, whatever the phrase is, to represent them as a buyer, you know, when they go and buy something. Or at the very least, they're in your database and you're dripping on them forever. And whenever they have a need in the future, or a friend that has a need in the future, you could have an opportunity to get that. Okay. Now, I think the reason why that was brought up in the first place is because the person had a relationship with the photographer where it would be like $100 or something, right? Which is really cheap. I wouldn't go spend like $500 on some random FSBO, right? Does that make sense? Andrew, does that kind of cover some of the tactical stuff?
That covers a lot.
Okay. First of all, I would read through those scripts. That'll be a good place to start. Okay, read through the scripts. How did you determine your sales price? Are you willing to adjust your price down when working with a buyer? Why did you decide to sell the home yourself rather than listing with a real estate agent? If you were to list, which agent would you list with? Right? Oh, I don't know yet. Great. How'd you happen to pick that agent? Or what would you expect the agent to do? How much time will you take before you consider interviewing the right agent for the job to sell your home? Right. Are you familiar with the techniques I use to sell the homes? No, I'm not, Andrew. I have no idea what you do to sell homes. Great. Sounds like we should meet. Well, I don't know if I want to hire a real estate agent. Great. Sounds like we should meet. Well, I was thinking about hiring a real estate agent. Great. Sounds like we should meet. Remember, that's one of our favorite responses. Great. Sounds like we should meet. Right? I hate realtors. Well, interesting. Sounds like we should meet. You'd probably not hate me. Make them laugh. Have a little fun, you know? All right. So this is just a series of scripts that you can go through. Print these out, read them 1,000 times. They'll become natural and simple for you guys to review, right?
Which ones?
This is called FSBO favorites. This has been in the group for a little while. We've sent it out prior to the Bold 100s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, please join me at 1 o'clock for the GPS and the 411 class. If I'm going to put this one thought in your head is, don't forget, guys, this is, we got into this business because it is a vehicle to help us get what we want, right? So there's nothing wrong with thinking big and dreaming and whatever you have in mind, guys. Like, you wouldn't be the first person to buy a mountain house. Like, it's certainly possible. You wouldn't be the first person to like write a check that you never dreamed you could write to a charity that you've always wanted to support, right? And I believe every one of you is certainly capable of doing it. We just need to have a plan, right? How do I know I'm on pace for that plan? So that's what I want to help you ponder and really give some thought to, so that when we create the GPS and the 4-in-1, it'll be even more meaningful. And Pam, it is possible to buy a mountain house. Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's also possible to build one. She just bought one. She's gonna knock it down.
Well, I bought it 3 years ago.
Well, I know that, but you enjoyed it, you lived in it, and you say, well, damn, let's knock this thing down and start over.
Build a bigger one.
There you go. Let's build a bigger one. All right. I'll see you guys at 1. Have an awesome day.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Heather Fowler.